Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My 38 male. Parents died when I was 23. And my little brother, Adam, 27 male, was 12. He inherited my parents' money in an account with me as payee until he turned 18, but he asked me to manage the account for him after that. It paid for his needs until he graduated and got a job in 2016, and it sat until 2020. I inherited the house, the family business, and massive debt. I planned to sell the business and house and move him to live with me, but Adam had a massive meltdown, and the therapist I sent him to insisted he needed to be close to friends. Even though we had no other family there and my entire life was in another country, against my better judgment, I moved 4,800 kilometers back home. I quit my old job and broke my lease, tried to maintain a long-distance relationship with my girlfriend at the time, juggling my parents' business and trying to pay for a house with most of the mortgage left all by myself. I started dating Emily, now 34, when Adam was 16, and when he moved for college, he gave Emily his blessing to move in with me. We got married when Adam was 21, and we are expecting our first child. Emily helps me run the business, which barely survived 2020. The house is paid off, and I'm starting to turn a small profit again. In 2020, Adam lost his job, and I gave him the rest of his money in his account to support himself, and he asked me to handle the bills. Every month I'd send him some food money and let him know his updated balance. He doesn't have enough to pay for the remainder of his lease, October, and I warned him in January that Emily and I can't afford to support him. I gave him two options: get a job and pay his rent, and I'd pay his food bill, or move home and live with us for free while working for the family business. He lost it, saying it was my fault for sacrificing my life for the business and the house, and that he shouldn't have to give up his life since I was supposed to take care of him. I told him I gave up my entire life for him, and I struggled to keep the house and business alive because he wanted me to. So I don't have cash to spare to support him because I have employees and a baby on the way. He insisted I sell the house and business and give him his half, and I reminded him that those were my part of the inheritance, not his, that I paid most of the mortgage, and I kept the business alive, and I didn't want to give up everything I worked for. Our grandparents, mom's parents, late 80s I think, are the only living relatives we have. They live in a territory overseas and refused to take Adam or help us because my parents didn't leave them anything. So I was stunned when I received an angry phone call from my grandma, calling me a greedy jerk and telling me I should be taking care of my little brother. I reminded her that he's 27 and needs to get a job and take care of himself, and I let her know I offered him both a home and a job with me, and he said no. Not the a-hole. If grandma is that concerned that her grown grandson needs to be taken care of, she's free to take him in and finance his life. You've done your part, and now it's time for him to grow up and do his. My husband will not go out to eat with me without a fight. He says it's not something he likes to do, makes him uncomfortable, and just doesn't like it. I've offered to make the plans, make sure he likes the place, offered to get takeout and go somewhere else besides the restaurant, go to cheap places only, but he whines or won't talk to me the whole time. This has resulted in going out on a date 2 times in the past 4 years. Fine. However, he will go out to eat with coworkers and even will go out with them and their spouses and will not invite me. Now he's going out for dinner with his sister this weekend. I'm at a loss. If I bring it up, he always tells me I'm jealous. So I'm just laying on the couch crying now to avoid being told I'm wrongfully jealous. I think he's a hypocrite. This has hurt my feelings so deeply in the past, and I made out to be the bad guy. Am I the a-hole? Update. He told me it's because of my OCD. I guess I did once ask for new sheets in a hotel since there was blood on them, and then didn't want to sleep in a bed that had hair on it. Never any discounts or scolding, so not a Karen. He rarely tells me these things, so I can forget, but he hates me for it, and I feel I'm being punished for it. I'm not diagnosed. I also assume I have depression too, so sometimes I'm too tired to clean, and then I'm afraid the germs will be bad for my child. I probably am the a-hole. I'm just fine writing that. Thanks for all of your input, and I am polite in social situations, so I didn't lie. I am good at hiding it, and it really hasn't been bad, so I sometimes forget. I just think he doesn't like me. Update 2. Have struggled with what to do, gone back and forth. But I think I need a week break from him, and I'm taking it. Not best timing with Christmas, but I will spend a lot of time with my daughter. Not the a-hole. That is blatant hypocrisy on his part. And from your description, it sounds a bit emotionally aggressive. Going out with friends is fine, but going out with his significant other is such a horrid chore that he whines and gives you the silent treatment? That's not remotely normal. Has he explained why he feels comfortable to go out and eat with literally everyone else? I, 18 female, am Japanese descent. It is not on my surname because it is not my mother's side, and I only have my father's surname. But I grew up at my maternal great-grandmother's and grandmother's house, who spoke almost 70% of the time in Japanese, so I can speak Japanese, as does my whole family, including my parents. I live in another state far from where my parents live. Who is from Brazil will understand. My relatives are from Rio Grande do Sul, and I live in Brasilia. I've been dating Laura, 19 female, for 5 months. She is also a descendant, but unlike me, she has Asian traits. She knows I am of Japanese descent, but we never got into the conversation whether I speak or not. She never asked, and I never commented. It's been about 2 months since I've had lunch every 2 weeks at her parents' house where she lives, both of whom are of Japanese descent. And a funny thing always happened. They would talk in Japanese. Some things like, "Go make the bed, the dishes for lunch are yours," to the parts that spoke bad of me. She didn't eat everything on her plate, or "strange way to dress." My girlfriend used to scold her parents also in Japanese, and this has been the case for the last 2 months. I'm not necessarily offended, but I find it extremely funny that they think I don't know and talk about everything in Japanese, thinking I'm lost in the conversation. It is worth mentioning that they keep the conversation 97% of the time in Portuguese. My parents came over this weekend, and Laura's parents insisted that we go to their house so they could get to know each other. At some point, my mother had to leave the table to talk to my grandmother, and when she came back, she said in Japanese, "Your grandmother sent a kiss." And I replied, "Send one of mine to her later." I know Laura and her parents were surprised, but they didn't comment, and dinner stayed that way for the rest of the night. After I dropped my parents off at the hotel, Laura asked to talk to me via video call and said that I embarrassed her parents because they didn't know that I understood and spoke in Japanese, and they talked about family things in another language, precisely because I would not understand and would not make it boring. I replied, saying that just like they badmouthed me, didn't they? But I didn't want to talk about it, and you never asked, despite knowing that a part of my family is of Japanese descent. She still stood her ground, saying that I could have said and avoided all the awkwardness at her parents' dinner. I didn't really do it on purpose. I just responded unintentionally to my mother talking in a language I'm fluent in. Am I the a-hole? Extra. I don't live with Laura, so it didn't happen that I spoke in Japanese with my relatives in front of her. Yes, it was the first time she had met my parents. Not the a-hole. If they're going to badmouth you within earshot, they should be embarrassed regardless. Disappointed your girlfriend isn't defending you, though. Okay, I'm a 57-year-old male who has 3 kids, 30 male, 27 female, and 25 male. Me and my wife have paid for each of my 2 oldest's wedding, which covered dress, suit, bridal parties. If they wanted to make a destination wedding, we covered guests who couldn't afford it, and the honeymoon. Now, there was not a budget placed on them. My oldest's wedding total was around $85K. My middle kid's was around $120K. Now, my youngest is getting married. Him and his soon-to-be wife don't believe in big weddings, and total is around $20K. Now, my kids don't know how much each other's wedding cost, as I didn't share, and I guess they didn't see the need to bring it up. So, the problem came up this past weekend. My soon-to-be daughter-in-law was talking to my middle daughter and my oldest son's wife about their weddings, and I guess totals came up. Now, my youngest son and his fiancée are demanding I write them a check for the difference for down payment on a condo or house. I refused and stated I was only paying for their wedding, and now they are threatening to disinvite me. So, am I the a-hole? So, it has come up, so I'm adding this here from the comments. I paid for all of my kids' college lives. On top of that, they each have 3 trust funds that got released at 18, 25, and 35. He has more than enough for a down payment if he wants to. I get that it's your money, your choice, and future daughter-in-law is unreasonably demanding the exact difference. But how can you not understand how vastly unfair this would seem to your youngest? You've pointed out that he had the same tuition help, same trust fund, but it's okay with you that he gets so much less from you around his wedding? I just can't grasp your reaction to his small wedding either. It seems you have a sucks to be you attitude since they chose a small wedding. Do you have some kind of unresolved issue with your youngest that would make you treat him this way? Why would you not want to be more fair? Soft yes the a-hole, because I could never imagine treating my children so differently. Update. I wanted to address a couple things. It came up that I offered my two oldest the option of a wedding or house down payment that had to be paid back when they got their second trust fund, and not the youngest. I wasn't trying to hide that. I just didn't see it being of any importance. Seeing as my son and soon-to-be daughter-in-law didn't ask me nicely for the money, but demanded it, and then gave me an ultimatum. So I'm sorry if that affects your decision-making. So on to the update. We had a family meeting Sunday night. Me, my wife, my oldest son, my daughter, and my youngest. After talking for a couple of hours, we got to the heart of this. As many of you suspected, it wasn't doing it for my soon-to-be daughter-in-law. She never wanted a small wedding. She dreamed of horse-drawn carriages. Actually, now that I think about it, she wants something like out of Cinderella, but didn't want to plan it. So when it was all said and done, they had a total of $20,000, which she thought was a lot, until she started talking to my daughter and daughter-in-law about their weddings and realized what she couldn't have. After that, she pulled my son to the side and started nagging him to either postpone the wedding so they can make it bigger, which, truth be told, I wouldn't have minded, or demand I write them a check for a down payment on a house that my son clarified during this meeting he did not want. My son hates the idea of living in the suburbs, saying, "I'm not living out of the city, not being near all the hottest spots, trendy bars, restaurants." He's chosen a child-free life, and I'm not upset about it. So it also turns out she was the one threatening to disinvite me from the wedding, and this has caused her family and friends to turn on her. My son plans to call off the wedding. He said he thought he was ready to be married, but maybe he's not mature enough yet. He apologized to me and his siblings for how all of this turned out. We're on good terms, so he doesn't have to worry about that. This was Sunday night. As of last night, she officially moved back in with her parents, who have called me to apologize. I think I'm going to go with one of the commenters' advice and donate everything we have planned for the wedding to someone else and give all the vendors extra money for the inconvenience. When my son is ready to get married, again, I will pay for whatever wedding, big or small, that he wants. My husband has recently won a large amount of money in a competition. It isn't a life-changing amount by any means, but is enough to help make us comfortable, and I thought pay off our debts. He has announced he is paying his debts off, a once-in-a-lifetime holiday, approximate cost $10,000, and will be investing the rest. I'm grateful that he is willing to take me on this holiday, but I would have rather had my debts paid off. When I query this with him, his argument would be, "It's my debt, I can get myself out of my mess, and I would waste the money on frivolous purchases," which is not true. I do have self-control. I recently developed a little obsession with repurchasing some lost items from my childhood, which is where this is stemmed from. But the items are low value and haven't impacted my recent debt. He just seems to be taking it out of proportion. He has also told all his family about my spending, and they now view me as a big spender who wastes money faster than it comes in, as he doesn't understand why I like the items I've purchased. We have also booked an expensive holiday this summer that he insisted on going to a 5-star hotel that is costing a lot of money, and I didn't want to stay in, and he is insisting I have to pay him for my half, when I would have rather stayed in a more affordable hotel, even though he could more than afford the holiday price even before the lottery win. We have been together many years, and this is just one of the many expensive holidays we have been on that he has convinced me to go to when I couldn't afford it, which is one of the main reasons why I'm in debt. I also used my credit card for about $1,000 of wedding costs he doesn't realize I've had to spend, and when we got stranded on holiday, it was my credit card footing the bill. My debts currently are around £11,000. He now believes I have a lot of money because my salary has gone up. But in reality, as my salary has gone up, so has my debts, and it is never ending. He also earns £40,000 plus a year employed, plus probably £10,000 to £15,000 a year on his sole trader business, that I also do the accounts for. So he is not short of money himself. He lords it over me that our house is technically his house, as I didn't pay for the deposit on the mortgage, although we are 50-50 paying house bills currently. If he invests the money, I will have to open a company in his name to manage the investments and do the accounts for this company unpaid. I am not thrilled at this idea, as it is a lot more work for me with no benefit to myself, whilst also working full-time. I even got a second part-time job to help pay my debts. I needed to get a car, and he convinced me to get a brand new car rather than an old banger, and I told him I would struggle paying him for the holiday if I got the car. It was the holiday or the car, and he still encouraged it. Am I the a-hole for getting excited when my husband won some money because I thought he would pay off my debts, and now being miffed because he won't? The View 221 says, you two need to go to a marriage financial counselor and come up with a together plan that you both agree on and stick to it. It should include debt reduction, future plans, home, vehicles, vacations, other large expenses, retirement plan. You're more like squabbling roommates, each with your own ideas of what to do. Everyone sucks here. Fuzzy Mom 2005 says, you're the a-hole. Sorry, but I have self-control is at odds with I recently developed a little obsession with repurchasing some lost items from my childhood. You got yourself into that debt. Get yourself out of it. Frankly, neither of you make enough money to be spending it as you are. Late Arm says, wait, what? Info. It sounds like your husband makes more money than you, and you have divided the expenses in that he pays for his stuff and you pay for your stuff, correct? Which is a great way to do things. But then the richer party must come down to the budget of the poorer party. He sucks for pressuring you into going into debt to match his budget. And you kinda suck for letting yourself be pushed beyond your financial boundaries. I'm going to go with everyone sucks here.